I'm going to call the meeting to order now. The minutes were sent out. Has everybody had a chance to review them? If so, I'll accept the motion to approve. A motion, do I have a second? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, let's see. We're not going to have a public forum. And looks like we're ready for you, John.
Good evening, everyone. Nice to see the light. It's still being light out. Days are getting longer, so that's a good thing. Anyways, the water meter upgrade project, we've hit the 9,000 meter thresh level. We have about 2,500 meters left to replace, so that's a good thing. So things have slowed down a little bit. I think it's because of the high COVID numbers a couple weeks ago that people were hesitant to make appointments, but I'm hoping that, you know, with the numbers improving quite a bit in the last week or two, that people will start making some more appointments for us to get those changed. So, and then we're going to start making a more heavy push in the coming weeks with people knocking on doors, door hangers and things like that, hoping to get this done by, you know, March or April. I'm sure there'll be some leftovers after that due to service line issues and things like that, but I'd like to, you know, get down to definitely under 1,000, but hopefully under 500 by, you know, sometime this spring, and then pick at the rest over the rest of the summer months. So, but like I said, the appointments have slowed down a bit, and could be the weather as well too. With this cold weather, people, you know, didn't want to make appointments and things like that. So, the next update we have is a cross connection control program. We actually now have somebody in that office, so we haven't had somebody there for a while, and somebody did apply from distribution and took the vacant position that we had from a retirement last December. So he's really hit the ground running, and we're really pushing to get everything back up to where we should be as far as testing backflow devices and things like that. So really encouraged with the progress we've made the last couple weeks with that position, with that person in that position. So try to get our numbers back up, you know, to meet Mass DEP testing requirements. So so that's a good thing. I also have another personnel update. We did hire somebody else for the distribution crew. So we actually tried to hire a couple more people, but unfortunately they declined the positions due to the pay level. So I haven't lost hope with them yet. We're hoping that they'll get some licenses that, you know, that were kind of needed for positions above what they were meeting as far as their qualifications. So they're working on those. So hopefully we can get them in there as well, or at least one of them to fill the vacancy we have left. So we are going to have 3 retirements next January. So there's going to be a big, you know, vacuum as far as loss of personnel and the treatment side. And we anticipate somebody from distribution, at least one going over there. So we would like to, you know, make sure that we're fully staffed soon, have those people up to speed. So when those people do retire and somebody moves over, we can, you know, still continue to do the work that we need to do. But, and that's pretty much what I have for this evening. I don't know if anybody has any questions about any of those items at all, or I'd be happy to answer them.
Any questions for John? John, just out of curiosity, are we at any risk? We just saw all the press on that someone scamming into that water department somewhere else and changing the chemicals. Are we at any risk for that?
Yeah, they have a team with a program called TeamViewer or whatever they were using. We don't have that, so, and that seemed to be the route by which they access the system. So with the upgrade of the SCADA system, we'll be dramatically increasing our security against hacking. So, but no, I don't believe we're at risk. Of course, we're going to maintain a high alert. We've, you know, got a lot of information from the US EPA and Mass DEP, you know, things to keep an eye out for. But I'm confident that we're fairly secure because we don't have that program. We'll utilize it.
Good. Any other questions for John? Jeff, what do you got?
Works out well tonight. John goes short. I think I'm going to go long. Starting out the wastewater agenda, the first item is sewer ordinance. We had gone through quite a level of effort to get our sewer ordinance updated. So that took a lot of work and a lot of time on our part, and it depended upon input from Fitchburg Legal and others. So it's reasonable to have expected and anticipated that the town of Westminster and the town of Lunenburg might have needed some extra time to be able to process what they need to process by the two intermunicipal agreements we have, one with Westminster and one with Lunenburg. There's provisions within both of the IMAs that they have to adopt regulations or ordinances as strict or stricter than the Fitchburg regulations. And there's a time frame within which that they're supposed to do that. In the case of Westminster, I was notified by the Westminster DPW director that they won't be able to make this change until the Westminster town hall meeting, town meeting on May 1st. And then similarly, town of Lunenburg reached out to me, and they don't do things by town meeting. They do it through their rules and regs. So they still have a process that they'll require public hearings, and they would do that through their own sewer commission meetings, consecutive sewer commission meetings. But they do have quite a bit to review in what we produced with the update, and they would have to go through their own legal review. So both Westminster and Lunenburg have made requests for time extensions to the IMA timelines. And I thought that they were reasonable and justified requests. So I would recommend that the commission accept these time extension requests on behalf of Westminster and Lunenburg. For Westminster, they are requesting that the deadline be extended to the end of business on Friday, May 7th, which is the Friday following their town meeting. Similarly, for Lunenburg, they're requesting that the time extension be extended to the end of business on Friday, May 28th, which would be the Friday following the second Lunenburg Sewer Commission meeting. So I would support and recommend that the Water and Wastewater Commission grants those time extensions.
So we should make a motion to approve this. Does someone want to make a motion to approve these extensions? George, I see. Do I have a second? Steve? Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none. All those in favor? And looks like everybody's in favor. Any opposed? Okay, the motion carries. Thank you.
Going hand in hand with sewer ordinance is the sewer rules and regs that we've had on the back burner for quite a while. We have gotten feedback from the city solicitor, which was requested by the Water and Wastewater Commission. The solicitor was sharing that he doesn't have water and wastewater expertise to get into the meat and potatoes of a lot of the content, but he did spend extra time looking at the Article 7 provisions of the rules and regs, which is violations, penalties, and enforcement. And generally, he was supportive of the content and how the rules and regs were put together. He just picked up on one thing where within the hearings provision of Article 7, Section 69 hearings, it doesn't have a clause in it where if someone were to request a hearing or we were to ask someone to come in for a hearing, if the grievant is not satisfied with the resolution of the commission, what would their recourse be? So at this stage, the solicitor isn't recommending that we hold up the process to get that resolved. If he can get an answer, he'll get it to us. And we can address this as a subsequent update of the rules and regs, which don't have to go through city council. It would just be up to the commission's purview. With that, the only feedback I've received to date, unless someone has more questions and comments to bring to the table, was Chairman Healy. So I had addressed, or I've gone through and addressed most of those comments, Rick, and there was only one in particular that I'm not entirely satisfied with, and I'd like to table that and maybe alter or propose some altered language. And that one in particular was the gravity discharge to sewer, which is section 17 of the rules and regs, and it was your second comment in question. We have a handful of systems throughout the city which are low pressure sewer systems, where a home or more than one home is serviced by a grinder pump, a residential grinder pump. And then that grinder pump discharges out its own private force sewer service into a common force, a common low pressure sewer main. And then the combined flow then discharges into the city's gravity system. These types of systems, they have a really good track record for operating well. The only problem we have, wastewater, I should say, is we're not really well equipped to maintain these or repair them or replace them if they were a failure of some kind. The other consideration is if we were to maintain that entire system as privately owned, whether it's individually owned or collectively owned by, say, a homeowner association, that would be private infrastructure within our public right-of-way. And that gets a little bit messy, having private infrastructure in the public right-of-way. So I'd like to look at this a little bit more and maybe try to reword this particular section, Rick.
Okay. I just want to make sure that I just want to make sure we're not eliminating technology that's been proven that could, cause problems with future development.
Right. It is, it's proven, but if it fails, if we were to accept this, then we're possibly not capable of repairing it, then the liability falls onto us.
Is that the case though with the Turkey Hill? Does that what the pump systems feed into? That was my question. Was when the pump systems feed into another whatever holding tank, does that go by gravity into our system or is it pumped into our system? That was my question. I don't know how it works.
A lot of the time, these systems have a common force main, and then at the very tail end, before it discharges, it'll actually union onto or be joined onto a short length of gravity sewer. And that allows the force discharge to inject into a short length of PVC pipe before it goes into a manhole. If you were to have that force discharge connected straight into the manhole, then you'd have sewage injecting and discharging right into the manhole, and it creates something of a safety hazard for the employees if they were to have to go into that manhole to perform service. So normally we would like to have that coming into a short length of gravity pipe beforehand. I'm not sure about the construction of the Turkey Hill one.
Oops, we lost you. You just muted.
Yeah, I didn't hit a button, I swear. I think that situation for Turkey Hill, I believe it is one of these situations that we have risk, and it's something that we have to address. I'm just a little bit reluctant to encourage this type of system where other force systems that are easier to maintain on our part would also do the job instead of this E1 system. I don't want to rule it out of hand. It just creates more difficulty in terms of operating and maintaining on our part.
Okay, well, we can address it. I'm sure we can address it later.
Okay. I'll go through your other comments, Rick, one by one, and then we can open up to discussion if anyone else were to have any comments or questions. Your first point was on section 11, and that section name is sewer connection permit. So this particular section, it goes hand in hand with the ordinance. We took a second look at this, and partly when you deal with these documents, sometimes you can become blind to it, and it helps to have a fresh set of eyes taking a look at it. So I thank you for seeing that and asking the question, Rick. Once you asked the question, I circled back with my team and also with DPW engineering, and we thought that posing this particular item, and I'll read the item as it currently stands in the draft. It's section 11, item D, prior notice. Any person proposing a new discharge into the system or a substantial change in the volume or character of pollutants that are being discharged into the system and requiring a change in the existing connection shall notify the commission at least 45 days prior to the proposed change or connection. When we looked at that, we thought that there's a better way to address the concern. And it's also, I think, better directed towards the commissioner as opposed to the commission. So I'll read what I'm proposing as alternate language right now. D, any person proposing a new change into the system or a substantial change in the volume or character of pollutants that are being discharged into the system and requiring a change in the existing connection shall submit with their sewer connection permit application a utility site plan to DPW Engineering Division for review and approval prior to connection of the new or modified discharge to the city collection system. This better aligns with how things actually flow in workflow when someone tries to permit something. And if there was a major change in the flow or a major change in the character or makeup of the sewage flow from a given property, we would definitely want that going through the sewer permitting process. So a site plan would be submitted with the information on this change. It would be hand in hand with the sewer permit process, and engineering and the sewer collection group of wastewater would be jointly taking a look at this proposed change.
Yeah, Jeff, my concern was more on a small scale, not on a large scale. If someone wanted to build a house and connect to the sewer, 45 days seemed like a pretty long permitting process. That was my
to be honest with you, Rick, I think that was proposed by our consultant at that time. I'm not trying to throw them under the bus, but it was left there as a nominal number. It didn't really well jive, and we should have caught it and give it more consideration before it got to this point. But we're suggesting that you don't have that time factor as a part of this section.
Okay.
For advance notice.
Now, do we need, if we're going to make that change, do we need to make any motions, or do we just take a motion of the whole thing at the end?
Well, I'll have that holdover on section 17 that we had talked about before,
Right.
The language that I want to adapt. So I could provide updated language in advance of next month's meeting, including the new language that I'll propose for section 17.
Okay, so we don't need a motion. We don't need a motion to approve these rules and regs tonight, is, I guess, my question.
I don't think so. I think we can take care of it next time in all one fell swoop.
Okay, thanks.
So we had talked about gravity discharge to sewer. That's the one that we're going to rewrite the language on. The third one you had, Rick, was prohibited connections. And I'll read the language verbatim as it appears. It's section number 19, prohibited connections, on page 14 of the rules and regs. It's C, connection of an individual wastewater disposal system, whether directly or indirectly, to a city sanitary sewer, combined sewer, or stormwater drain is prohibited. And I think what was catching your eye is, what does that really mean as a individual wastewater disposal system? We didn't have that as a definition at the front, so I have proposed language that would speak to that point. I'll read the whole proposed language again. C, connection of an individual wastewater disposal system, where that term is in quotations, as herein defined, whether directly or indirectly, to a city sanitary sewer, combined sewer, or storm drain is prohibited, period. Next sentence, in quotes again, individual wastewater disposal systems, end quote, shall include, but not be limited to, an individual residential home septic system or tight tank system, a multifamily residential home septic system or tight tank system, a commercial or industrial property septic system or on-site decentralized treatment system, or an on-site decentralized treatment system servicing multiple properties. So what this is kind of either a septic system or a tight tank, which is obviously a closed system without a leaching field. If you had a sensitive receptor, like if it was close to one of John's watersheds, where they would have to continually vacuum pump out that tight tank. What I said was a on-site decentralized treatment system. Essentially what that is like a septic system on steroids that's built up to handle multiple properties. So it's decentralized away from our central wastewater collection system and treatment plant. So the whole point behind this particular section is none of these systems should be connected into our sanitary system, our combined system, or the stormwater system. So this would be the clarifying language that gives a little bit more detail and explains what that ambiguous term was. I'll stop if anyone has questions or comments.
Questions?
Okay, none. The next one you had, Rick, was on section 32, inflow and infiltration. And your question on that was, is this 4-to-1 I&I removal the current standard and standard practice? So this section, and I'll read the language verbatim as well. It's paragraph B under section 32. An applicant for sewer connection or extension seeking to add flow of 15,000 gallons per day or greater shall be required to mitigate I&I, which adds extraneous water to the city's sewer system, thereby reducing its capacity and capability, at a rate of 4 gallons of infiltration/inflow removal for each additional gallon of wastewater that is to be discharged to the sewer system. Now, this language pertains to the requirements of 314 CMR 12. That's a Massachusetts regulation that governs what wastewater utilities do in the state, in addition to the NIPD's permits, where NIPD's permitted by both EPA and Mass DEP. But this regulation also applies to us. Now, the reason this language is being inserted into our rules and regs is we're still a combined sewer system. So if a large connector that's proposing to add 15,000 gallons per day or more of sewage flow, they would have to remove 4 gallons for every 1 gallon they're proposing to add in. So the recourse here is if they refuse to do that, then they don't get a sewer permit from me. And really, this is about tightening up our system and removing this infiltration and inflow. We're trying to not treat rainwater. We're trying to not treat groundwater. Now, this regulation requirement becomes null and void once we're no longer a combined system. And our goal is to not be a combined system after 2030. So obviously this provision wouldn't mean anything anymore. We could always leave it there because it would be more stringent than the requirements of the regulation, but we don't tend to like to do that. So once we're a separated system, we could remove this provisional requirement.
This is what we've been doing at current, when a large system comes on. Is this what we're currently doing? That was my main question. Are we, is it
Right,
four?
that is the practice. These are few and far between, as you would imagine.
Right. Okay.
There's been some resistance to this that's unresolved. A couple problematic developments that are proposing large connections. They may or not agree with wastewater's interpretation internally within the city. I'll just leave it at that.
Okay.
The next one you had, Rick, was on section 33. This was your fifth comment and question. This is section 33, construction of below grade plumbing, on page 19 of the rules and regs. The way that the section reads, I'll read it verbatim. All plumbing fixtures located at an elevation below the adjacent roadway elevation, which contains the city sanitary or combined sewer serving the proposed plumbing, shall be considered to be subject to backflow and shall be equipped with a backwater valve in accordance with 248 CMR section 2.094 of the Uniform State Plumbing Code and 780 CMR section 10.15 II of the State Building Code. The backwater valve shall be furnished and installed and maintained at the owner's expense. So your question here, Rick, was this looked very similar to language you saw in another location. And what you cited was section number 20. And you're right, it does look very similar. In section 20, that's within Article 3 of the rules and regs, which is building lateral connections and appurtenances. And where you flagged the question, section 33, that's in our Article 4, requirements for design and construction of facilities. One area is kind of getting into the weeds of what the backflow preventer is, and the section 33, where you cited it, construction of below grade plumbing, that's really setting a scenario where that device would be required by the reg. So I think this can be cleaned up by eliminating some of the language in section 33 and actually pointing back to section 20 for detail on the backflow valve. So I had proposed language to address that. I could rewrite the section 33 paragraph saying all plumbing fixtures located at an elevation below the adjacent roadway elevation, which contains the city sanitary or combined sewer serving the proposed plumbing, shall be considered to be subject to backflow and shall be equipped with a backwater valve, and then adding clarifying language as specified in section 20 of these sewer rules and regulations. So it will eliminate the CMR references in detail of both the plumbing code and the building code, and it points back to that same language that appears in section 20. So that's what I would propose to remove that apparent redundancy.
No problem. Yep.
Did anyone else have any comments or questions on their reading of the draft rules and regs?
Looks like you're good, Jeff.
Okay. I am not perfect, and I'm the first one to admit that each and every time.
It's not bad.
So
better than
the language. Thank you for the feedback, by the way. By the revised language, I'll propose that back for approval at next month's meeting, and I'll also include suggested revised language for section 17 that we had discussed before.
Can I, Jeff, can I ask you the question about city solicitor's email?
Okay.
Since we're not voting it on today, we're going to vote on next month. Does this provide the necessary comment period for the public to comment on the rules. That way, when we adopt it, we can say that we provided a comment period.
These are uncharted waters for us, so I'm not quite sure. It's a good question, Nick. I was assuming that at a bare minimum, once the commission approved the rules, that we would advertise the rules publicly so that the public would have knowledge that the rules and regs have been promulgated by the commission. By virtue of being part of the Water and Wastewater Commission and advertised within our agendas, there will have been opportunities for the public to comment or participate in the process. So I'm not quite sure how to answer your question properly, Nick. Is there anything that the commission would like to see along those lines?
I think, you know, you've presented them here. We're going to vote on it next month. If anybody wants to comment on it, they can I guess email any of us really. And you know, next month, if we have received any public comments or feedback, then we can, you know, discuss it and then approve it accordingly, I guess.
Okay. It's been a long, drawn-out process with these rules and regs. It's kind of been on the books now for, I think, before Nick came on board.
Yeah.
It's been on my to-do list, my wish list. So moving on in the agenda, I wanted to provide updates. The separation project is underway. As I had said in previous commission meetings, it commenced in November 2020. The types of work that the contractor is doing is spot type work, whether that's a spot repair or a manhole installation where there was none, or a combination manhole replacement. Some of the work that's being done is being done to help facilitate the trenchless rehabilitation, which is cured in place pipe installation. So the contractor has subcontracted to Green Mountain Pipeline, and Green Mountain has been in the city and doing some of the preparatory work, which is doing cleaning of the existing sewers and doing their own CCTV inspections prior to commencing the lining operation. So that type of work will continue, I believe. We're kind of heading into the heart of winter right now, so I wouldn't be surprised if we have a somewhat short-term shutdown pause of the general contractor, Polito, and then have them recommence once proper spring temperatures arrive. But they have done good work. They have actually come in quite handy for wastewater when we've had a couple difficulties. They were kind of Johnny on the spot for us, and they really helped us out. So far, the experience working with this contractor has been very, very good. Also under construction project updates is the on-call construction contract work with Blue Diamond. The excavation work associated with the Highview project is completed, and the main remaining pieces of work that have to be done are trenchless rehabilitation, and then also the springtime restoration type work, restoring lawns, restoring driveways, those sorts of things. But in general, wastewater's been very happy again with the progress of this particular project. And it's actually been very quiet in the way of complaints from this neighborhood. And we had tried to go out of our way at the beginning of this project to try to head that off. So far, so good. And we hope to have a successful completion of this project in the springtime. The bullet number 3 under wastewater is just a reposting of the rate study item. This has been a item of discussion in the past. It's something that we're cognizant of. Most recently, Water Wastewater had done the most recent rate study, and we had a 5-year rate that ended up getting voted on and approved by council. We've recently, within the last month or month and a half, probably a month, Nick, we've had the on-call engineers approved by the city signing authorities, the mayor, procurement, legal, and so forth. So we've recently executed on-call engineering services contracts. So we have a ready mechanism to pursue this type of task order for a rate study if we want to commence it. So that'll make things easier for John and I. The last item under wastewater was mostly just miscellaneous updates for the commission. I did provide in the agenda packets, thank you for Jennifer for sending that along, a trifold brochure that we updated for the plant. One of my main things for wastewater has been public communication and trying to inform the public of who we are, what we do, why what we do is important. We do a lot of tours of our plant to schools. We do participate in public fairs like the Health Resource Fair that's held at the senior centers in September's. So this brochure would be something to put our best foot forward and communicate who we are and what we do. And I'm really pleased with how this brochure has come out. The only wrinkle we have right now is we don't have a print shop in-house, so we'll have to outsource this printing, unfortunately. But I'm very pleased with how the product came out. I don't know if anyone has any comments on what they see.
I think it's a good job, Jeff. I like it.
I'm very pleased with how it came out.
It looks good. It's too bad you couldn't get the new pictures though, of the buildings.
What do you mean new pictures of the buildings? That's from our aerial drone flyover.
I know, but it has the
That's
old
after
colors.
the SSU is completed. I'm sorry?
Yeah, but it doesn't have the Fitchburg colors.
Well, it does. You just can't tell very well. We ended up going with the gray siding, the battleship gray, in the burgundy trim, and it may not be quite that easy to make out on that aerial photo. But those were according to my my resident expert on Fitchburg history, Lenny Laxo. He said that those were the designated Fitchburg colors: battleship gray and burgundy red.
Yeah, but those weren't the colors in the brochure, were they?
In this current one, yes.
Oh, okay, I missed it then. The one I saw circulate early had the old colors.
Well, there was a couple buildings that were not updated, like the APC building, air pollution control building, that had newer siding that was not yet deteriorated, but the blue on it, it was kind of a slate blue color originally, but it kind of faded with the sun. So it almost matched up with the battleship gray. But the main control building has the new color in the new trim. And these aerial drone flyovers took place after the siding and trim was done.
Oh, okay. I thought I saw something different. My apologies.
How'd you get a drone up so close to the airport?
Well, it was very carefully coordinated with the airport. They happened to be doing their runway extension work, so they were closed for plane approaches at a certain time.
Okay.
It just so happens that we were able to coordinate it, and then we also got video capture of the West plant, and that came in handy when we were doing the anaerobic digestion RFP. We were able to capture a video flyover of the West plant, and then Nate, thank you very much, Nate. Nate helped us out with boots on the ground internal video capture of the West plant. So we were able to piece those two things together, and then I put my awful speaking voice overdubbing the videos, and we had something of a product. Obviously, we couldn't do a site walk or a site visit in COVID conditions, so this was our next best thing we could do for the RFP and the anaerobic project. But we're able to do them both, and both drone flights, even the one at the west, we coordinated that with the airport as well.
Yeah.
So the very last bullet I had was, tis the season on rain barrels, and the vendor that we've worked with in the past reached out to me just to give me a tickler. We've done 3 years of rain barrels in the past. The first year we sold almost 100 rain barrels, and we thought that was pretty good. Second year we had a significant drop down and only sold 50. But then last year in the COVID pandemic, we broke the record and we sold 176 rain barrels, more than the first 2 years combined. So based on the success of year number 3, I would suggest and propose that we continue this practice. As I've said before, that rain barrels are a form of green infrastructure, and we do have a green infrastructure provision within our consent decree. What green infrastructure really is trying to take rainwater and divert it to someplace else, aside from letting it get into the sewer system or the separate storm system as well, just because it can transport pollutants. So in the past, we've partnered with the Conservation Commission, and we've also partnered with DPW Engineering, who's kind of at the forefront of MS4 compliance for the city. It kind of checks all the boxes for us in preventing rainwater from getting into either the natural resources of wetlands or into our sewer system. So it's been a successful partnership to this point.
Very good. Any other questions?
Any questions?
Looks like you're good, Jeff. What else? Do we have any other business? Doesn't look like we have other business. The next meeting will be Wednesday, March 10th. Probably going to be Zoom, although this says it's going to be at the provincial building. I'm guessing we're still going to be doing Zoom meetings.
I don't know, the numbers are dropping pretty quick for Massachusetts. Maybe you might be able to.
That'd be so nice to have this.
It would.
I would say not until after we're vaccinated.
Yeah, I think you're right, Jeff. I'm guessing that their vaccinations are going to have a lot to do with when we start having meetings in person. But
Grocery stores open.
there you go. Okay. No, if there's no other business, I'll accept a motion to adjourn. A motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, we are adjourned.
All right.
Everybody.